Hey Scott, how are you?
Good. How are you, Patrick?
Doing awesome, my friend. Doing awesome. Good to have you on here.
Yeah.
What do you think about team meeting?
Good. Good. A lot of good information. A lot
Yeah, well,
going
it's
on in our world, that's for sure.
there is. There's nothing stagnant about it, right?
Right. That's right.
That is the truth, isn't it? Well, we'll have some fun today. We'll talk about seller pricing. So, um, it's 12:30. Let's just get started, Scott. And as this builds out, we'll invite everyone else on and keep this going. So when you hear seller pricing strategies, what does that make you think of? How does that make you feel?
Well, I think obviously in a shifting market, it's a little different. It's
Hmm.
different than what, during my time as a real estate agent that I've had to learn on pricing. And it's a little different when prices are potentially going down over time versus going up, or uh,
Right.
things like that. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm curious what those strategies are. What factors are you want to consider?
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things that we realize. Hey, Sandy, how are you? One of the things that we realize is, are we pricing for today's market or are we pricing for yesterday's market? Like, it really ties into the tail of the two markets. And when we're talking about strategies, what could be some strategies that we could use? Because the things that we can control, right? We just had a whole conversation about what we can control and what we cannot control. Great to see you, Sandy, on here. And hey, so what can we control? We can control price to a point, right? We can advise on that, and where that pricing scale looks, we can control to a point. I mean, really, we're talking about the sellers here, right? Because at the end of the day, it's their decision. We're here to guide them. So condition. So price, condition, location. Well, location we can't even touch, right? We can't pick the home up and put it to somewhere else. I mean, how many buyers and sellers have we talked to that were like, gosh, if I could just pick this house up and move it over here on this perfect piece of land, everything would be awesome, right? And so now knowing that it's the tale of two markets going on, but then also what happens with our surrounding market, because that's going to influence, right, on whether or not homes are going under contract. What do those showings look like now? How do we do that? Sandy, when you think of pricing, what comes to mind when you start thinking of pricing strategies?
Um, the comparables. I would look at the
Yeah.
comparables and compare houses. Something's got to be apples to apples so you can price it right. I'm so new to all of this. I haven't done any deals except one, and it was my own. And
Awesome.
the thing that I struggle with, and I don't know if this is relevant to any of this since it's just the three of us. Um, I need to figure out how to get clients. I mean, after all of this mess is over with the COVID-19, I need to figure out, because I work full time as a nurse. I'm not in a hospital. I work from home actually as a case manager, but it's really been difficult for me to do this and that. And so, like I was starting to do some open houses and things like that. And then stuff happened with
Mhm.
the shootings and stuff like that. So I was like, So I am really having a hard time. I did actually purchase a gun, and I want to do my concealed carry just so I can be safe. My
Mhm.
husband doesn't mind coming with me sometimes, and my kids don't
Good.
mind coming and sitting with me. But
Good.
other than that, like, I'm not a door knocker because I work full time 5 days a week, and I don't really like doing cold calls. So I'm just, really struggling to get my clientele up right now. And
Sure.
I almost had a client right down the road, and somebody got to them before me, and I even tried to price their house, you know, like myself, just to see, and I didn't get close. And the house actually sold for more than I thought it would. So I was
Okay.
like, okay, what am I doing wrong?
Well, and it's not
Yeah.
a what are you doing wrong?
Okay.
What it is you have an opportunity in front of you. What you've just described, and we'll tie this into seller pricing. What you
Okay.
just described is what you're able to do, not able to do, comfortable with, not comfortable with, varying reasons, which is all legitimate, right? Safety first, all day long, and that goes for the guys too. I mean, Scott, you know that as well, right? Like it's not a gender deal at all. It's you're always gotta, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Now, here's what's interesting about what you just said, Sandy. When you were talking about door knocking and you're talking about, okay, I started to do open houses, what that begins to look like. Well, now we have this really cool opportunity in front of us where we're able to do this digitally, and
Mhm.
a digital open house, right? What does that look like? A big conversation that's happened is, what we talked about it at the team meeting. In the event that we have, one of those little cameras that pop on, and the seller would like to go and do a video and walk through the home and do a video that we can use. Here's the key point around that. Buyers are in naturally say, okay, that's great, but what's wrong? Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So they're going to
Mhm.
say, okay, that's great. The kitchen looks awesome. Now, what am I not seeing about the kitchen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I think the
you
air
have
fryer
this
does.
digital opportunity in front of you. That could be door knocking, it's open houses. You have a database. All
I
of
don't
us
have
do.
a dad.
Do you have
I
a Facebook account?
Yeah, but
Okay. So you have a
a lot of the
database.
people, a lot of the people on my Facebook are not here in Colorado. A
That's fine.
lot of them.
Totally fine. So here's the
Oh,
key around this,
Patrick,
right?
I'm getting a
Around
call for work.
Okay, so here's the key with this, right? Is that when we start looking at, and Scott, I'm going to gear this towards you right now. When we start looking at Facebook, we start looking at pricing strategies. The key is when we look at days on market and knowing that overnight our market shifted, which it did. Now the inventory hasn't caught up. However, what has shifted is our accessibility, right? Because isn't accessibility part of pricing? If someone is asking for a price that's $20,000 over market price, but they're not accessible, and then we have this chain: condition, accessibility, location, pricing. If it's not accessible, which we just have to get creative around this right now. So looking at from an accessibility standpoint, what can we do? Not what can we not do. See, the challenge is that we get focused on what we cannot do. The key is, what can we do? What can I control? What can I not control? That's what's so powerful about this right behind me, is if I was going to talk to a seller and I say, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, here's where we're at today. This was the market yesterday. This is the market today. And guess what? I don't know what the market will be tomorrow. So when going into pricing, is what's the why behind it? Is it more important that you have an extra 10,000 that is on your price, or is it more important that we get the home under contract and you're able to move on to the next house? That would gauge the motivation, right? Knowing that days on market's going to take a hit, and that's just an expectation. So are we willing to have a fierce conversation? When we do, Scott, how, for you, and Sandy, I know you're just starting off. So Scott, with you in your business, how many listings, have you taken this year? Let's just go there for a second.
Well, I've been with, I'm trying to think, 2.
Okay. So we've done a few listings, right? So when we're doing our listing agreements, and this is really what ties into pricing.
a lot of pricing is being able to explain the difference between the market of today and the market of yesterday. The market of homes that sell and the market of homes that don't. Because there's two different markets. These guys are selling, right? These guys here are pulling the market down. And the reason they're pulling the market down could be price, accessibility, location, or condition, right? So right now, what are we doing to be able to insulate our sellers on the pricing standpoint? That could go directly into the listing contract. Are we putting a clause in that says, hey, after so many days on the market, after so many showings, whether it's virtual or not, after so many showings, are we looking to reduce the price by X? If we put that in the actual contract when we take a listing, then we're able to go back to that in the event we run into a challenge or an opportunity with the seller that says, you know, hey, Scott, I'm not willing to go to that price. Well, gosh, Mr. Seller, you said that after this many showings or this much, let's review your motivation, right? Because on that contract, you initialed right by there that we were going to do it. It's automatic price reduction in order to get in the market. So now, again, that's going to tie into how are we preparing the seller. So, for example, ease, right? Why was Opendoor and even iBuyer successful programs that are now, by the way, stalled out? They're not even in existence right now in Denver. Like, they're gone. Zillow is out of the market. Redfin had a furlough, and it took over 40% of Redfin agents are now unemployed.
Wow.
7% of their staff has been cut. Compass Real Estate cut their coaching program by 41%. In that same time frame, KW increased their coaching program by 200 agents in the last 30 days. See the difference between the two? So it really, when you're looking at a pricing standpoint, you know, it's diving into this and saying, okay, cool. Do we know, are we preparing our sellers for a hard conversation that could be ahead? Hey, Mr. Seller, after 2 weeks, Mrs. Seller, after 2 weeks being on the market, based on this activity, are you agreeing to doing a 1%, 3%, or 5% price reduction so that we get you in front of the market, right? We know that a home that is priced right, great condition, and has accessibility, whether it's not physically now, maybe it's digitally, but we have accessibility and we have tools that are available where we can do that. Homes are selling, right? We had homes this last weekend that had multiple offers on them in totally different styles of homes, right? Whether single family, condo, even land, we're still seeing the movement that's happening there. The key is we're figuring out a way to do it. Now, that, by the way, ties into your value proposition. So if you're looking at a value proposition, hey, Shannon, good morning, afternoon. If you're looking at a value proposition, that could be part of it, right? By listing with me, these are the services that I provide. Oh, by the way, here's what I can't control. Here's what I can control, but it's not helpful. Like Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what we can control, but this probably wouldn't be helpful, right? You can control accessibility. Yet, if we're not working together as a team, it's probably not helpful, right? And over here is what we can control. So even visually or on a Zoom call like we're having right now, I can go through those 3 categories and have that conversation with the seller, base it around pricing and motivation on do they want the market of today or are they willing to risk the market of tomorrow? I can't guarantee what the market's going to do, but I can analyze it and I can interpret it. So by analyzing and interpreting, that's where we start to really see the value come out, and we're able to have a very transparent roadmap going through when we're first meeting with the seller, when it's 2 weeks on the market, when it's 60 days on the market. I mean, keep in mind when we look at the market that was 10 years ago, there's 120 days on the market. I mean, I came from 120 to 180 days on market average. So there's a lot of conversations that happen within that, right? The other key piece could be, what is some ease of, you know, we know that the buyers right now are going to be uncomfortable. We know the sellers right now are going to be uncomfortable. We have the opportunity to guide them through on the why, where it's not commission based. It's literally, Mr. Seller, I know your intention was to be in Honolulu by July 1st. Here's what our market is now. Here's how we can pivot and still create the value of it. Or maybe you want to withdraw it. But what I can tell you is the market that's going on today is not going to be the same market as tomorrow. So you give them the option and let them choose, right? Do you want A, B, or C? What are kind of your thoughts on this as I'm kind of rattling this off?
How do we know? Like, how do you know that? How do you
Well,
know what the market is?
Right. Well,
Where do
it's
I
going to
get
be
that
the
info?
areas. Yeah. Well, you can pull that information even off of the private Facebook page. Amber does the daily listings count, right? That's the market that's going on today. You can go into RE Colorado and check that out and pull statistics off of that and see the market that's going on. Know that RE Colorado statistics, for the most part, are 30 days back, right? If a home is pended, it pended in yesterday's market. Not today's usually. Not usually. I mean, we're still seeing that, but it's know that there's two different markets that are playing. So the data's there. It's a matter of how we interpret it. Great question though, Sandy. What are some other questions, Shannon?
Well, sorry, I just jumped on because actually that I was just on a phone call with my seller. So that's after we had our team meeting. So I just discussed things with him, and obviously his decision was to keep it on the market, even though there's no showings. He's like, hey, I still want the exposure, and you know, a couple of ways of looking at it. I just pulled up. I went into RE Colorado before I had the phone call with him, and there were 90 withdrawals today, or in the last 24 hours, I guess. And his attitude was, well, let's keep getting the exposure, and obviously we're not conducting in-person showings, but you know, I can still field calls and still have a couple of conversations that if, you know, somebody is interested, and that was his decision. So
yeah, which is awesome, and thank you for having that call, because you let them choose, right? That's not our choice, it's their choice. We're there to guide them. What was interesting about what you just said, Shannon, is that you talked about the amount of properties withdrawing, right? So he just had 90 of the potential competition drop.
right.
So now the listings that are on the market, especially when they're priced aggressively, I wouldn't price over the market right now, price directly under it, and then look at building that piece out, right? So, and that's a strategy, by the way, because the days of testing the market, which is what we hear a lot sometimes, is we go in and they say, gosh, you know what? I want to try this at 600,000 to test it. That doesn't work right now when it's a market change. The testing's out. So it's really got to reviewing that motivation. And, you know, Shannon, you hit it on the head. The seller realized that he has less competition, wants that exposure, wants those pieces because they're seeing opportunity. Part of our job is to take the emotion out and then create opportunities and show them a light towards those opportunities, right? Whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that I think I'm having right now is just with the uncertainty of really trying to counsel people, you know, because they ask you that direct question of, well, is it going to be better in a month, or is it going to be, and you know, and we don't have that, not having that crystal ball of really. I admit I'm struggling a little bit with advising people what things are going to look like over these next couple of months, and you know. Of trying to when do we come on the market, or if you've got buyers, and because I'm starting to sense a little bit the buyers are going to like, hey, we're going to wait this out till it drops to the bottom, and you know, just trying to have those conversations with them when it is such a uncertain time.
Yeah, well, and
Really
that's a great question, right? Like, do you list now or list later? What is the market going to look like tomorrow? One of those key pieces around that is reviewing, well, one is reviewing the motivation, and then it's also knowing that, okay, just like the market, we have zero control over interest rates. We are still in an election year. The election's not going to change. Anytime we see an election year, the markets are volatile. So the question becomes is how long is the interest rates going to be held down? Because if I'm a seller and I'm at 600,000 and the interest rates go from 3.5% to 4.5%, I just lost my buyer pool. That 1% difference could kick them down to 350, not 450 or 550, right? So now here's the cool thing. There is opportunity within that, because the same thing happened at that higher price point at 750. Now they may be in the market, and being very transparent and real about it, they may have more purchasing power. So
Yes.
it all dependent upon
Give me minutes.
how we look at this and what the message is that we put out there. So the I would really, it's a risk analysis. If I'm looking at listing today versus listing tomorrow, here's what I know. I know the market today. I don't know the market next month. And I don't know the market in 3 months. And if I could protect your income and the proceeds that you make off of the sale of your home, so you can go do X by listing it today versus into the unknown of tomorrow, then I'm going to encourage, I'll ask the seller, I probably encourage the list today, because at least I know what the market's doing.
Because it
Is
really
that
doesn't
helpful?
cost anything for anybody to keep it on the market, right? It's not cost them anything extra, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of the time, Sandy, it's a mindset piece. You know, we in Denver became very used to, and if I may just say it, spoiled on how low the days on market were. Now, granted, for buyers,
Yeah.
that was pretty darn hard, wasn't it? Like competing against 20 offers every single property and losing and losing and losing. That it brings them down. Well, now they have an opportunity when the rest of the buyers maybe are pulling back because nothing sells. The reality is it still is selling, very much so on a daily basis. So if I now can eliminate the looky-loo buyers and go in on a pricing standpoint, aggressively price, get under the market. If the market's here, price right here, right? Because that's going to create the most exposure possible. And these buyers here are able and ready to buy in this market. So it's, I don't know. I mean, it kind of can get flipped either way. The key piece is how are we interpreting it? And then how are we communicating that with our sellers? You know, one of the things that what I used to do is do things that were very visual, right? So here's a graph, but what I used to do is 2 circles. So I do market number 1 and market number 2 in 2 circles. So if I was to do that right now, it would literally look like this. And I would tell the story, the tale of 2 markets. And I would say, okay, in market number 1 up here, these are all the homes that are in your area that sold in the last 30 to 60 days. This is the price point that they sold at or pinned it at. In market number 2, these are the homes that have had all the price reductions in the last 30 to 60 days. So Mr. Seller, which market do you want to be in? Market 1 or market 2? And that's up to them, right? Like, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's up to them. But it's a visual explanation that ties directly into a market analysis that we can share with them, especially now with Command. You can do all that digitally. But there's 2 different markets. You know, the key is going to be when the public perception of Denver, especially with Denver, is that if a home is on the market for 21 days, 29 days, 35 days, 40 days, something must be wrong, right? Like that's, I mean, even from showing buyers, gosh, that's been on the market a really long time. It hasn't. The reality is that that's actually more of a stable market when we're looking at 30 days on the market, maybe even up to 45 days on the market. That's a normal market. We became used to, and then we shared with everyone else, gosh, get your home on the market right now. There's multiple offers coming in from everything and right? Getting that excitement up, that was our script. Now we have the opportunity to say, what would this look like for you if you were the only home on the market in your neighborhood? Buyers don't just come from Denver, they come from all over. And right now, especially. So it really can depend on how we're having that conversation. And the key is it's around the seller, not us. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's just, not making decisions or predicting the future. It's just providing the data and providing a clear picture of where things are. And, do you want that certainty of what it is now, or do you want to roll the dice, see what's down the road? No, I don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen, but, here are your options, and you let the seller or buyer make the decision on when they want to move.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shannon, how does that kind of reminds us of 10 years ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but it's part of a conversation I just had because we were going to be in this particular. It's a townhome in our condo in this complex, and now we're the only active listing. So it's kind of the same situation. The other one that went under contract was about 2.5 weeks ago, right before all this kind of really broke. And unfortunately for us, we kind of went on the market. We were going under the market the first weekend that all this really kind of started affecting things.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's one of those. Let's say you're still getting the exposure and trying to figure out what the market is now. Yeah, I think it's a little tough just because of the transition of really what people's mentality is right now. Because as you said, it kind of depends on which side of the coin you're on. You can kind of almost discuss it in both ways. If you're on the seller side, we can look at the data, but I think it's a little bit tough right now because I have a lot of buyers, and when you turn and talk to the buyers, and I feel they just, we're kind of telling a different story about the uncertainty. So.
Right.
I don't know. I think a lot of it is just who you're talking to and what their perceptions are. But right now, most perceptions are, they're literally, both ends of the spectrum. So I think it's a little bit hard time getting your hands around that right now. Because I got one of my buyers, to be honest with you, he watches too much news, and he's totally freaked out. He hasn't even left his house at all, and So you've kind of got that perception, and then I've got a couple other ones that are on the other end are kind of going, nah, it's all good. We'll just wait it out, and we'll start up again in a couple of weeks. So,
So here's a question for you: do you take an overpriced listing? It's up to you, right? Really, if there's an overpriced listing, it's overpriced. Do you take it or do you not? Or do you have a standard and expectation around that, knowing it's overpriced?
I'm trying to figure out what the advantage to taking an overpriced listing would be right now. Well, or at any time, but really particularly right now.
Yeah, well, I guess, and Scott, you were about to say something too, so I wanted to make sure that before I
just, it probably somewhat depends on some of the things you talked about at the beginning today of, if they want to test the market, but you can put some agreed upon reductions in certain timing, maybe so, obviously there's other factors at play, but it might be something to consider if they're willing to agree to make some changes pretty quickly if it's not getting traction.
As long, and I agree with that actually, and I think that have we taken overpriced listings? Have I taken overpriced listings? Yeah, and all of us, when you have enough listings going, you're going to take an overpriced listing. The key is going to be, are we have an agreement with the seller, whether it's based on time, days on market, based on showings, based on offers. We used to say, this is the recession, but we used to say 20 showings and no offers. We're taking a 3% price reduction, and make sure you initial it here so it's automatic, right? And what would happen? They'd call me and say, hey, where are we at on the 20 showings? Well, we're at number 12, Mr. Seller. What would you like to do? Hey, we're halfway there. What would you like to do? Should we be proactive or not? And it's, having that built into your listing agreements is powerful. And they initialed on it. They're not going to fight you on it when it comes to that. They're not going to be pleased, right? Because when a lot of times the sellers, when they come up with a price, we used to call it a ghost price. Ghost price was in market number 2. It's the homes that don't sell. It's the expired listings. It's the price reductions. It's a ghost, right? It's up in the air. And don't the sellers grab that ghost price and say, that's not a ghost, that's real, right? They feel that that's priced effectively. Or they feel that if they go X amount over or under the tax assessment, then that's going to be their pricing, right? Like that's how they came up with those numbers. That's part of it. The other key is going to be the motivation of the buyers, which is, the buyers dictate the price, not the sellers. And I used to say that, and it would cause some shifting in body language. But literally, without the buyer, you don't sell your home, period. So it's not the sellers that dictate anything. It's the buyers. So if the buyers are constantly going through and saying, hey, you know what, I looked at this, it's overpriced. Hey, it's this. Now's the time where feedback becomes really, really important, even if it's digital. Digital feedback is just as powerful as the other seeds. It goes into what are we willing as realtors, what are we willing to share as our value proposition? If I shared the message with you that, oh my gosh, pull all the homes off the market, nothing's going to sell, we're going down, the ship's going to go down. What does that do? Creates fear, scarcity, panic, right? That's not what they need. They get enough of that on the news. Like Shannon, you were talking about that. They don't need that. What they need is a game plan. Like, hey, in the event of this, now's when with our listings, we're able to insulate it even more, right? Maybe it's the home warranty makes the listing a little bit more attractive and can protect that price. Or maybe it's what can we do to make this home incredible, even online, to a prospective buyer, and easy. That's why Open Door and iBuyer programs worked in yesterday's market. It was ease. So they sacrificed their proceeds, which they really did. I mean, they sacrificed their proceeds for ease and comfort. So now they don't ever even have to worry about an open house, or they don't have, so you can use these things and say, you know what, Mr. Seller, I know we were hesitant on doing open houses and having strangers come walking through your home. So actually right now is one of the best times to list because you don't have to worry about that. And here's the reason why. Now the key is, what's our strategy around that, right? Because we're making a statement, next piece is a strategy, and the next piece is being able to implement that. And even, for Scott and Shannon, both of you are very analytical, right? Very driven, very analytical. So you're actually playing perfectly into your personality. It's the high I that says, oh, the sky's falling, I just heard this story about this, this, and this. That's where we can come in with numbers to justify what the market's doing. And then we take action depending on what our exposure, what our results of the exposure are. There's 7 steps here, and we'll close with this. Before I start this, any questions, comments, ahas? Okay, cool. So 7, and granted, this was written in 2009, right? So some of this we can tweak. There's 7 maxims for pricing in a shifting market. Be a student of the market, know your numbers. Focus your main comps on actives. Pendings and solds may already be out of date. 1000% true, especially right now. Something that was 2 weeks ago is outdated. 3 weeks ago is completely outdated. So the market of today, not yesterday. Be a student of the property. Preview them, even if it's online and through a video, so you can understand what is selling and why. What's their real reason? And around this, here's a good tip. The Lokins, who sold over 2,000 homes last year, Karina and Lance Loken, they went through all their listings and they pulled off the initial picture and they took a picture. Their primary profile picture is on the greatest asset of the home. So if it's the kitchen, that's their shot. If it's 5 acres and views, that's their shot. It's not the front of the home. The buyers want more, right? And by doing it that way, you separated it from the competition. So that's a really good strategy. Keeping your presentation as current as possible, right? Now going through Zooms or sending out pre-listing packets are money right now, because you can send those out, which you can create in Command. You can send those out to prospective listings before someone else ever even, the phone rings. right? So now they're top of mind, they're thinking about you. The key is ask who else should be used, who else could be beneficial on receiving a copy of your listing packet, right? A pre-listing packet. Pre-qualify for motivation. The sellers who most need to sell often. It doesn't matter the market. Price ahead of the market. We talked about that. Avoid chasing. And then always secure the price reductions in advance. Isn't that funny? So these are all ways of guiding a seller through a changing market because there's a lot of uncertainty. The key is the relationships we build today become forever relationships. So how do we really help, right? And knowing that there's going to be times where they call us and they say, hey, Shannon, hey, Scott, hey, Sandy, I just need to vent, right? I just need to talk to somebody because they're at home like we are. So now with that, I know we went about 5 minutes over. Is there anything else we should go after here before we break for the call?
I think I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Scott?
Yeah, I think this helps a lot.
Awesome. All right. And Sandy, do you have any questions or anything like that before we break?
Sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. Welcome to our new reality. If you could see on the other side of this door over here, there's a 1-year-old who's standing there with his hands on it. So believe me, I'm with you. And know that that's what our sellers are facing right now too. I mean, we all put our pants on the same way. And we're emotional beings. So it's okay to have that. The key is, how do we help them through something? And how do we bridge a gap on yesterday's market and today's market? And that could be through pricing, condition, accessibility, strategy on how we're marketing, all those different pieces. The thing is, it's not one that isolates the other. It's the combination of them. Make sense?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit, as you said, back when we were going through the short sale foreclosure time. There was always the talk of the shadow inventory and all that.
Yeah.
That's what it is now. It's just happening in a very compressed time period. We really kind of don't know what is out there until the next few weeks play out of like who's going to list and who's not and all that. So
I couldn't agree more. And I think for those who haven't been through a market shift, which is arguably about 80% of even our office hasn't not been through a market shift. Are we leaning on those who have? Are we leaning on those who have the experience to go through this and come up with different strategies? Because we're knocking the dust off the notes we had 10 years ago and we're breaking it back out again. And that's what's going on. So, Scott, it would be the same, question would be, and for you, Sandy, even being as a newer agent, are we leaning on those who have been through market shifts before? So who could be the top 3 people that you could reach out to and call, starting with our agents first, right? Because then that's what creates the community. So who out of our office could you reach out and call or send a text to, and they could provide some guidance? I mean, gosh, Shannon was just talking about it, right? So that I would really write down a list of the top 3, and then who's my missing person? Who's the one person that I'd love to be able to reach out to and talk to that isn't in my circle yet? Because all of us are at home, so there's a lot more opportunity now to reach out to even mega agents like the Lokins. They took an hour and had 220 agents on that call. And they completely were like, anytime anyone wants to reach out to us, we'd be more than happy to. But it's got to start here. Even with pricing, it has to start with the mindset first.
That's what I need.
How do I do it? It's how it's not can I do it? It's how do I do it?
I need somebody to just shadow, just watch what they do. I don't want anything out of it except the experience,
Awesome.
And I don't know who to get to do that. I would shadow somebody all day long while I'm not on my calls for work. I would do it all day, every day, weekends, anything. I've asked for this, and I feel like I'm getting nowhere fast.
So what I would
really
advise, I totally understand that completely. Here's what I would advise. Reach out, probably like first thing tomorrow morning, reach out to Debbie Connor.
I have.
Okay. So and then I'll talk with her as well. And what, we have ALC members. Scott's an ALC member. The point of ALC is to provide guidance around our agents, right? To help them through times like this. So, and Sandy, what I would do too is, even if we're not able to physically shadow someone right now, because that's not a possibility, digitally you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you say on our Facebook page, it's a private page, goes out to all of our agents. Hey guys, quick question. I really would love to shadow. And I know that now temporarily we're not able to. So who is doing Zoom calls with their clients? Would you mind if I jump on there?
Yeah.
Right. And then you're there and it's so cool because now it shows the community behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll give you guidance. So start with that on our Facebook page. And I would say that, Scott, for you as well, right? Like, I mean, all of us. Go on that, lean on our agents, lean in, not out. The other piece would be is, in an off time, what can we do, right? We can go to KW Connect. There's thousands of videos, thousands.
Yeah.
If you go to KW Connect, put in your login information and go to KWU, which is the university, it shows you pricing strategies. It does scripts and dialogues. It gives examples of what's going on, and you become a student of that. That's what's key. I'm not from Colorado, right? I mean, everyone knows that. Well, Sandy, you might not know that. I'm from Alaska. Now, I ran a team in Alaska because of the models and systems I had, regardless of the fact that I don't know anyone in Colorado. And when I moved here, I knew one person. I could take the exact same models and systems down here in Denver and implement those and kickstart the business immediately. Why? Because it's not necessarily my location. It's all the models and systems. That's what you can really use when you're looking at Connect. What's the reason why, right? We got to start there, because if we're just going out there to watch videos, you're just killing your time. So you got to have a very focused approach. What do you want to learn more about? And leaning that on our agent count too. The more we talk to each other, there's no such thing as over communicating right now. There isn't. Between our clients, between each other, between a market center, with your leadership, there's no such thing as over communication. And Scott just showed it. Grab this guy. Go on Audible. What's that?
Where do I get that from?
You can go, well, right now it's going to be a little bit more challenging, right? You can go to Amazon. You can also go onto Audible and download it. And it'll take you through the entire book and the Millionaire Real Estate book. Between those two, oh my goodness. There's also another, everyone should be a part of this. There's an incredible, there's 60,000 members right now on Facebook. If you go to my page, if we're not friends, shoot me a friend request, right? Go on my page, look at the groups that I have. I did that on purpose. One of them is Next Level Agents, which is amazing. Those have all kinds of different podcasts, interviews with some of the top agents around the country, what they're doing that's working, what they're doing that's not working. That's just as important. And then also Pivot. I just combined shift and pivot together and created a Shivit. So Pivot with Shift is another incredible group that's out there right now talking specifically about strategies for this market today. And there's 60,000 members. I mean, it's going all over the place. So I would advise to do things like that, and maybe do it incrementally through your day, so you're not just watching video after video after video. You're making notes, right? Are we audio, visual, or kinetic in our learning?
Right.
Think about that for a moment, because that's really what's going to give you the opportunity, because then you're absorbing, right? And then once you have the information, reaching out and saying, hey guys, I learned all this awesome stuff. Who else has learned this, and how are you implementing it? This is not the time to be a secret agent. This is the time to lean on each other and be exactly the opposite. The challenge is our industry is based around secret agents. That's the difference that we have.
Hey, I was going to mention real quick on the Shift book. Right before we started the book club, Debbie put a free PDF copy on the Facebook.
Yeah, go check that
I was
out.
trying to find it somewhere around March 20th or maybe a few days before that.
On KW Connect?
No, on our office Facebook group.
Yep, on the office page.
Oh,
Just jump on the
okay.
Facebook page, you'll see it.
The Keller Williams South Metro Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And we will continue as we get information, we're going to post it.
Okay.
And so now here's the key. It's like drinking from a fire hose. So go specific on what you're looking to learn that day, that week, not everything. Because
Yeah.
everything turns into nothing,
Right.
right?
Get
So
those
just
calming.
what is your one thing today? If there's one thing, and this is a great quote for everyone, if there's one thing you could do today that could change the trajectory of your business and take care of all other things, what would that be?
I don't know.
Yeah, so you get to ask yourself that, right?
Right.
And share it, right? Here's my one thing of the day, guys. What's yours?
Yeah. Right.
I think you'll be pretty amazed when you open yourself up that way, that you see all the comments start coming in, which then if someone likes a post, whether it's a personal post, business post, or on our page, if they like what you said, reach out to them, ask them why, right? Hey, I just saw that you liked my post. Hey, I just saw you shared it. Awesome. I would like to make more posts that you're sharing, because obviously there was some value. What was it specifically about that post that caused you to like it and or share it?
Okay.
Different conversation, right? Now
Yeah.
it's not selling. So, maybe take a look at those kinds of opportunities. The key is implementation. So even if we have a limited time, implementation. They say doubling down on your lead gen. What I would advise, double down on your efficiency. Because I can't make 26 hours in a 24-hour day. It's not possible.
Yeah. I just have no experience with, talking to people, knowing what to say, because I don't want to go just talk to people and be like, hey, what's your day like and all that. I want to talk real estate and I don't know enough about it. So I passed my real estate test and got my license, but
Congratulations.
okay, that wasn't the reality of this, and we all know that.
Now the game.
The reality is really getting out there and knowing your contracts, knowing how to price a house, knowing what people, knowing
So the
how
key is,
to get information.
The key is going to be, Sandy, what can you do, not what can you not do, right? So really, when you're looking at it, what can you do? You can reach out in these different communities. What you can ask these questions that we're talking about. You can go on KW Connect. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Debbie. You can reach out to Amber. Jake has offered, right? There's different trainings that are all through the week on purpose to help us all through this. The key is, though, is if we don't reach out, then we have no way to help. Yep, no problem. Scott, awesome. We're gonna wrap up. Sandy, I'll talk with Deb and see what we need to do to get that kicked off here. Shannon, I really appreciate you being on the call. Know that there's, we have agents that are in our office that have 10, 15, 20, 30 years experience.
Yeah.
They want to help. But you got to ask.
See, this kind of stuff, these Zoom meetings, I've been asking for this since I got with Keller Williams in I think it was 2017. Okay. I've been with you all since 2017. I have done one deal. It was my own. That's it. I sold my house in Grand Junction to my son. That's it.
So you have lots of opportunity. You have tons of opportunity.
I'm telling you, I have been with you all, and all I've done is pay my office fees, RE Colorado, and that's it. And whatever else we pay. And I am just, I can't come to the meetings at the office because I work full time. I live in Elizabeth. I can't get there. I've been asking for these kind of Zoom things since I got with you all because I can't come out there. It's really hard. So this really works for me. I love it.
Good.
I'm so glad I can do this now because I can work and be here and, I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
But,
check out your daily emails. Check out your daily emails that are coming out from Amber. They're really important, and there's links on everything.
Yeah.
So if this is really helpful for you, this is the platform of our meetings going forward until further notice. So
great.
Now the cool thing about this is you can actually meet and chat with your database, which you do have a database. Even if you don't have one in Denver and don't know a single person in Denver, that does not matter. It really doesn't. It's
I don't
how do we
remember.
reach out to the folks that we do know and ask the questions. And that right there can create the business in Denver. Because Denver's a hub, right? People move here
Yeah.
from all over. And they move for different opportunities. The next boom that's going to happen right now is in your profession, right? In the medical industry.
Right.
So who do we know that's from other areas that may be interested in moving to Denver, right? Now you have a different conversation.
Yeah.
So now the key is, how do you tie this together so you can go,
Right.
instead of trying to do all of it, which none of it gets done and we get super frustrated, one thing at a time. One. That's all I want you to do. And if it's connect, then do connect. And when you go on there, it's being very specific about that one thing. What do I want to learn today, this week? Right now is the time where you can absolutely dive into, what does command look like? What do these pieces look like? Why is that important, right? It's all models and systems that you can refine right now. And the coolest thing about this, Sandy, all of us are on level playing grounds. You're on the same playing ground as some of our most experienced agents because they haven't been through a market shift.
Mm.
So think about it from that way. It's not necessarily, I'm a new agent, I did one deal, it was my own, right? It's, what did I learn and what did I do well out of those things? And I'm on the same playing field as everybody else. So being that's the case, what are my strengths, not my weaknesses? What can you focus in on that you're really good at, right? That's what you start to develop a business plan around. So I will reach out for you, we'll reach out, and Deb and I will have a chat, and be really engaged. Go on these different calls. You know, this class we did today is 3 days a week. There's tomorrow I run a class that calls successful strategies in a changing market. That's another 30-minute class. So it's all designed for you to have little bits of tools that you can start adding to your arsenal. And then that way you can start making those calls. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. And I've been getting more organized. I got them on my KW calendar and everything so that I can know, okay, I got this, this, and that. Because I think after this, we even have something. We have, it looks like we have.
Command is starting in about an hour. Yeah. So there's all kinds of things. Check out the daily emails. Just what I would say is do what's relevant today in your business on kicking this and getting it started. And ask other agents, right? Hey, who else is new out there and you're thrown into a market shift? Help, don't know what to do, right? Like ask those questions and you would be amazed. Here's what's cool. One, you'll get a ton of responses. Two, if they're not from Denver, you just created referral opportunities on where they're at. If they're in Nebraska, they're in Tennessee, I don't even care where they're at, right? All over the place, it doesn't matter. You're increasing your network. So my question to them would be, awesome, thanks so much for your help. Hey, quick question. Who do you know that I need to know?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Who do I
you
know
that I need to know?
Who do they know that I need to know?
They have different circles than you do, right?
Yeah.
So they may say, gosh, you know what? You need to know this company here that's relocating to Denver. That's how these conversations start.
Oh, okay.
So I got to jump off the call, but I really appreciate you being on here, and reach out to us, you know, and just keep it, just go simple, right?
Okay.
Keep it simple. If it starts getting complex, stop. If it doesn't.
Yeah, I find a lot of this is common sense, you know, for the most part, you know, except of course contracts, they're, you know.
Contracts are contracts, and there's a class for that. But the key is, what do we need to do to get it under contract, right?
Right.
Because we can spend all the time in the world on contracts class, but if you don't have a pipeline or any deals going on, you just killed your time. So I would say, what's your first step that you need to do in order to get the business rolling? And that would be the question I would ask. And lean on to others with that. And here's your homework assignment. All right? Here's your homework. So you have until the end of the week, until Friday at 5 o'clock, in order to just ask those questions. That's all I'm asking you to do. What I would like to know from you is, what was the response?
Okay.
So if you could, and it doesn't matter what time of day you do this, it's on Facebook, go onto my account, see the groups that are on there, log on to those groups, ask those
Okay.
questions, ask the questions on our private page, and then send me an
Yeah.
email that says what the responses were, and I'll help you through it.
Okay.
Cool?
All right. All right.
So my email is tl@kwexecutives.com.
TL@KW Executives.
Yep, kwexecutives.com. And let us know,
Okay.
and we'll tie in. The cool thing about that is it gives me the opportunity to tie Deb into that too and say, hey, what can PC do to help Sandy out? Right?
It's PC.
The productivity coaching program.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes.
Yep. And then she'll have some different snippets that will come as well. And then we're all like this. I mean, the last thing I want you to do is feel like you're on an island in Elizabeth. So you're not.
That's how I feel.
I know. I know. It's and know that you're not. You're not. It's a
Yeah.
perception. It's a
Okay.
perception.
All right.
So awesome. I got to jump off the call. I appreciate you being on here. Thanks,
Thank
Sandy.
you.
Bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.